What's up, guys? I'm going to show some ideas about punching today. This is my new favorite toy. I'll link it up in the comments here. It's really nice. It's just a big suction cup. Stick it up on any desktop surface. And you got this awesome rebound punching bag. Great for punches. You can practice your, see here, I'm doing the 4 hits here. Elbow, back fist, punch, elbow. Good for this kind of stuff. Good for your chain punches. Good for your chi sao. All kinds of ideas here you can work on. Good for your bong sao. Good for your lat sao. Good for anything. Best cheap Wing Chun toy on the planet. So I'm going to show a couple ideas about punches today, and kind of progressing from your basic punch, what most amateurs or people don't know martial arts think a punch is, which is they think it's something that you do with your hand, with your arm. I'm gonna try to do it from this angle here. So basic punch, wrong punch. My arm and my deltoid are driving the punch. Okay. Number 2 option is I use my body. So here my arm's not doing anything. I'm rotating my body. That involves my core, it involves my hips, it involves my legs, and it delivers this kind of punch. So here I'm not actively using this, I'm throwing my arm, okay? And this kind of punch, I would say, is associated in the Wing Chun world with Chum Q, okay? Because in Chum Q, we do this kind of turn. So it's a turn where we learn that our elbow and our hip are linked. So you can see here, my elbow and my hip are linked, okay? And you need to do that. You need to develop this kind of punch first, because this kind of punch is where you get whole body joint coordination, okay? My joints are moving together. I have to be aware of how my joints work in order to utilize them properly. But there's one other type of punch that we can think about. Actually, I'll go up one more level. So after we have the hip and punch going together, we can also do a hinging punch, okay? So here, it's a little bit different from this one. As you see, my hip and my arm are connected as one unit. Okay, I can also do this. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually hinging around this axis. So watch, I'll make this my front foot right now. So I'm hinging and I'm opening this. So the action of throwing my arm around is not that I'm moving my hip forward, it's actually that I'm moving my other hip away, rotating around this front axis. Okay, so this kind of punch, where you're dropping your weight and sinking onto this axis. I can also do it from my rear axis. Okay, so now that was from my rear foot, so now I'm doing the same thing around my rear foot. I'm hinging from there. Okay, also there's no involvement of these muscles. My arm is being thrown. Okay, this kind of punch, you can see it a lot of times in Tai Chi. It happens in a lot of different martial arts where there's a hinging around this area. And I would say even in Wing Chun, it's probably what's happening in some of our low cutting punches. So when we're cutting in like this, I would probably classify that as a hinging punch, although there's so many other things going on there. That would be one. So like your Sunim Tao, right? You have these kind of punches. When you're doing your Sunim Tao, you're first learning to punch like this. Obviously, nobody's walking around like this and trying to fight people, right? This is an exercise. This exercise teaches you how to punch down the center line and how to control the space with wedges. Okay, you have wedges here, you have wedges here. So when you actually use it in application, of course, you're moving your feet, right? So you're moving your feet, you're creating angles, and you're hinging. So that hinge is what allows you to throw your fists without using your arms. You're hinging. Okay, so now what can we learn from the higher level forms like Buji? And what can we actually learn from other sports? One of the things I've been watching recently is a lot of videos on baseball throws. Okay, a lot of people think that a baseball throw is that you wind up your hip and your arm, and then you whip it like this. You go wind up, boom, wind up, boom. And this would be like a Chum Q style of baseball throw. See, my hip and my elbow are together. And it'll work, right? You can throw a ball that way for sure. But if you want to throw a ball 100 miles an hour, you can watch some of these pro guys explain it. I'm going to try to do a job, as good a job as I can on this. But what they show, number 1, is that you need to break your arms apart, like this. Okay, so what they're showing here is actually the breaking apart of the scapula. Okay, the scapula are moving out like this. They're separating on your shoulders, and that creates a certain type of tension back here. Not like a muscular tension, but like an elastic tension where you have a rubber band inside of your body. Okay, when you break your arms apart like this, you create that rubber band. Okay, and number two, what they're showing is when you don't wind up your arm, you don't do this, and you don't wind up your hip either. What actually happens is that the hip goes forward. The hip goes forward, and that causes this hinge to happen. So once you have this break, see the hip going forward actually causes this to happen, and hip going down actually causes this to happen. So it's a whip. Okay, so this is also a whip, but it's only a one-part whip. So when you whip if you do both of them at the same time, you use the rotation of your bottom hip to whip your arm. Okay, that is a type of whip. But a stronger whip is if you can whip it from all the way from the bottom, meaning you load it here with your foot and hip coming forward and your hand coming back, and then you release it. So it's like you tighten a bow and you release it. And this concept is talked about in so many martial arts. It's through Tai Chi, it's in Wing Chun, it's in a lot of places, right? And it's probably in every traditional Chinese martial art. In White Crane, which I don't study, but I've seen some videos, they do a form called Sanjan, which is also the karate form Sanshin derives from that. They do this, they break apart their hands, that's creating that tension in the bow, and then they release it, right? So I think it's the same idea. So what can we learn from this? So if the baseball throw is this, then this is our whipping punch. So it's here, and then the hip dropping is what actually releases our hand. So the whipping punch is like that. So it could be the most simple way is, I'm showing kind of a hammer fist idea. You can do that, hammer fist. This is also where the scissor gun, the upper gun from Wing Chun comes in, right? It's this hip. So if you study how baseball works, I think it's a very good explanation. The only difference in baseball is if they're pitching, they don't care to stay in the same place. So they're gonna end up here. They're gonna let their momentum carry them, and they're actually hinging over their front foot. So what they're doing here is they're winding up, they're whipping, and that momentum carries them through. They hinge on their front foot and they land. Whereas for most martial arts applications, we don't really want to lose that much. It's not like they're losing balance. They're falling with gravity, so they're going boom, and they're falling onto the next step, which could be fine for us, but in a lot of cases we want to maintain our balance. So we want to whip, but we're still here. See, so I came back into my center. You could, of course, whip and step with it, and now you're in your next attack. So I think there's some nice ideas there. I'll link up some videos that show the baseball pitch, and I think once you practice the idea of the baseball pitch and realize that it's the same concept as our whipping punches, you start to get a very different body mechanic. It's not just hip and arm go together. It's not just a hinge. It's now a loaded hinge. So this hinge is now becoming loaded by the elastic part in your body. Of course, to work on that elastic part of your body, you need to do your forms. If you're doing Wing Chun, you need to be doing your Sinim Tao. You need to be doing your Tai Chi forms. Whatever you're doing, those forms partially they establish the elastic connection in your body. So if you don't have that tightness, again, not tightness, but you don't have the stretch, okay, you need to have a stretch throughout your whole body. If that stretch isn't there, then this doesn't connect. So what happens if you're very floppy here is it goes like that. See, I can wiggle my hip and I can throw my hand, but it's just like a noodle. It's like a wet rope. It's not gonna create the force I want. I need a little bit of stretch, so that becomes a whip.